Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to get started with installing the Arduino Integrated Development Environment. Let's start by opening a new browser window and navigating to arduino.cc. Now that we have opened the official website of Arduino, we can see that they have got a store where we can purchase one of the Arduino boards. Let's navigate to the link Buy an Arduino. As for this course, I have chosen Arduino Uno, and I've got it from a local store for a cheap price, relatively cheaper compared to other microcontrollers and microprocessor developer kits. So you can purchase your own developer kit from wherever you feel more comfortable or from whichever is closest to you. Next, let's navigate to Software Downloads. Over here we can see that they have got an online editor for the Arduino programming, and if we scroll down, we can see that we can download the Arduino IDE for any of the operating systems supported. For this course I'm going to use Linux, which I use for almost all the programming tasks I'm having, but you can feel free to use the same environment on your Windows or Mac setup. So I would choose Linux 64 bits. I will let it download. So you can decide whether to contribute a donation to the Arduino official team, or you just download the development environment. So it is downloading now. I have already downloaded another version which I'm using for this course. So let's not wait for it to download and directly move to the one I have got. Over here we can see that we've got the tar file for the Arduino IDE. I will start by right click and asking it to extract the folder right here. Now that it has finished extracting, I will enter the directory and open a new terminal window. Now that I have the terminal opened in the same directory where I've got the Arduino IDE files, I'll simply type down sudo bash install.sh and we'll start installing the IDE. The setup is much more simple on Windows and Mac if you've got that operating systems. We can see now that it has completed successfully. Most of the time, if it's your first time installing it, it will ask you to reboot the system. Now that it has been installed, you can directly open the Arduino IDE from the desktop shortcut or from the navigator menu in your operating system. Once you start, you see a similar sketch to the one I'm having on the screen right now. It has got two main functions: void setup, and it takes no parameters, and then the body of the function, and the other function is void loop, and it takes no parameter and the body of the function. The first function, setup, is run only once in the beginning of the execution of your program, but the loop method is being invoked every CPU cycle, and this is where your actual program lies in. So for example, in the setup method you can install and invoke any variable definitions or initiations you would like to start with, and then in the loop method you perform the routines that are going to be executed iteratively over your sensors or actuators as you move on with your program. At this point, I have got an Arduino Uno connected to the USB port of my server machine, and we can double check this by going to Tools, Board, and choosing the type of the board we have got. In this case we have got Arduino Uno. We double check this. Again we go to Tools, Port, and then we can see here that it has got marked where the USB drive or the USB socket where the Arduino is connected. Sometimes if you've got more ports connected through USB, you'll find multiple options in this list and you have to choose which one you are programming at the moment. So let's burn our first program to the Arduino board. We go to the arrow icon at the top left of the screen and click. We can see that because the program is empty, it is done uploading. Another option that you might find useful is check the right arrow here, which is named Verify. You click on Verify to make sure that your programs compile correctly before burning them onto the board. One of the very interesting features in the Arduino IDE, which I find useful most of the time, is the serial monitor, which is found on the right top corner of the screen. If you click it, you get something like this, and you get a couple of options: auto scroll for auto scrolling as the output comes on the monitor, and show timestamp to show the timestamp of each output line. And here you've got another option whether you choose to no line index or new line or carriage return or both new line and carriage return. I would usually use both new line and carriage return. And here is the frequency with which you are programming your kit, and depending on the sensors and actuators connected, you might find using different frequencies useful, and some of the sensors are using one of the specific frequencies as per the datasheet. We will play along with these options as we develop through the course. At the top of the monitor, you find here there is a text field where you can enter commands. For example, for the ESP8266, I would usually say AT plus GMR to get the version of the ESP attached. Since I've got nothing attached at the moment, it doesn't give any output, but you've got the idea that you can send commands directly to the peripherals connected to the board through this text field. If we get back to the browser window and navigate to arduino.cc, we go to resources and then we go to get started. Right here we find a lot of tutorials on how to get started. If we navigate and scroll down to Linux, we get some tips and hints on how to install Arduino IDE on Linux, exactly the same way we have done. Sometimes, but this has never happened to me, you may get a permission error. That's why you may need to consult this additional hint tutorial of how to set up your permissions correctly. Congratulations! Now you have set up your Arduino development environment. See you in the next video.